is that I've been in the Mariana Trench, like the lowest of my own personal low, the Mariana Trench being the deepest place in the world. And then I've also been to Everest. And it'd be remiss of me not to talk about my own mental health as well. And I'm diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So when I was 21, still at uni, I think third year-ish, something like that, I was super sad. I was tremendously sad, and I did not know why. I was very confused and very sad, and didn't really know what to do or where to turn. So I made a very poor attempt, thankfully, at taking my own life after my suicide attempt, and I was back with him. And I didn't know what I was about to say, but it just came out in the conversation. I was like, Dad, I needed to show you how sad you've made me feel, and that was really quite hard. Prevention is better than cure, right? So but anyone that listens to this, if I could say one thing, it's just genuinely, if you want to feel happy, give, and you will feel it. You will feel it in bucket loads. What does motivate you is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy, do I get the freedom to express and be the best that I can be? Mastery, can I be the absolute, am I being trained, supported and developed to be the best that I can be? And purpose, do I derive a sense of meaning from the work that I do? If you can find a situation where you get paid the number that you need for money to be not an issue, and you can find autonomy, mastery and purpose in your work, you're winning.
What are the biggest challenges they face from a startup?
The number one thing that I can say almost without fail over the course of 10 years that every entrepreneur or founder has said to me.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. We're sharing the stories of our guests. I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant. It's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events, enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing. Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm here, delighted to welcome Mr. Simon Chuter. How are you, sir?
I'm really well, Sam, thanks. Really well.
Mate, absolutely buzzing to have you on today. I must admit, I know we've done a strategy day recently at the Sussex Innovation Centre, which where you're based, and me and you had just a wonderful walk after. I had a lot to process that day. There was a load of people there helping me, which was incredible, and I was a bit blown away. But yeah, I sort of come out and you created this space for me to just go and have a little walk and talk, and it was an amazing conversation. I was like, oh, let's make this happen then, and here we are, only a few weeks later. So, mate, really grateful to have you on.
Delighted. Thanks for having me. I love that walk and talk as well. A walking meeting is a joy. Yeah. My good friend Lucy introduced me to the concept of walking meetings, and I've taken it on board, and I absolutely adore them. Yeah,
no, it was good. We was blessed with the weather that day.
We were. It was glorious. It was beautiful.
Amazing, mate. Well, look, we're gonna jump straight in. Always, we kick it off with a big question, right? How do you define success? What does it mean to you?
You're not pulling any punches, Sam. I like
Mate,
that.
We go straight in.
Okay, go hard, go home. How do I define success? Yeah. I was thinking about this question coming in, knowing you were going to ask. I know you're going to lead with that, but knowing that you were going to ask. I like to try and keep things simple, right? So for me, success, on a very personal me level is I pay my mortgage, I've got a couple of cars, I've got a couple of beautiful children, I've got my wife, and like success is just keeping all of that down on the down low and just keeping it all like right, everything's covered, everyone's happy, everyone's healthy, everyone's good. And like that feels like success to me on a very personal level, and brings me a lot of joy as well. Obviously, there's so many different measures of success when you look at kind of when you talk about business, and there's traditional measures of success within business. But I think that narrative is evolving and changing, and something that you've evolved in your own discourse, I think, through these podcasts as well. But yeah, to keep it simple on a very personal level, success is purpose, happiness, joy, love, and connection. All of those things.
I love that. Is that like has that evolved for you over the years? Is that always sort of been how you've looked at it, or was it when you was younger? Did you look at it differently, or?
I wonder how as a young man, how did I define success? I don't really, thinking back, I don't really think I thought about it a great deal. Obviously, you got your academics when you're a kid, right? And so you're pushed down that kind of path of, okay, well, if I'm studying and getting good scores, then that is success in the eyes of someone, right? And it's allowing me to take the next step. And for me at that time, I guess it was just opening the next door, one GCSE, one A level, one undergraduate degree, whatever, just open the next door to the next opportunity. And so success was defined, I suppose, in that way at that time. Yeah, that's the way I would have perceived it back then. Has it evolved over time? Definitely. I think definitely being a dad and having kids and sort of what life means to you and purpose and success and all of that sort of stuff that comes out of that kind of changes that narrative a little bit. And on a really micro level, like success for me, this weekend I was with my son at Beaver Camp. So my son is diagnosed with autistic, so I went as a carer for him for one-on-one support. Typically parents don't go, and it's just the leaders that go. But I went with my son, and success to me at that moment, genuinely, I was sat in the woods at Parkwood just outside Brighton in this wonderful scout camp. And I just looked up at the trees and the sun coming through the trees, and that felt like success. Like it was beautiful. Like it was just really calm, and like I was with like these 15 little boys and girls, these beavers, who were having like a magical experience. And on the way in, Solly was like, my son was like, "Dad, this is epic," and he hadn't even done it yet, and he felt like it was epic, just the feeling of what was about to happen. And he made a catapult. We were showing how to make these catapults, and he took it into school yesterday. Well proud of what he'd achieved, and that for him was success. Like he stayed. We weren't sure if he was going to stay in his own tent or come into mine over the course of the night. But success for him was he slept in his tent with his mates that night and didn't feel the need to come and enjoy me at any stage. So yeah, success can be so many different things, so many different people at so many different times of life. But celebrate the wins, the big ones, the small ones, all of them. I was at the Amex last night watching us beat Liverpool 3-2. That was brilliant. I loved it. Like that felt like success, right? You beat the league champions. Maybe they're on the beach a little bit. I don't think they were. They still put out a decent side. We were great, and I really enjoyed that last night. So again, those little moments. My brother-in-law unfortunately wasn't at the game last night, but I've had some of the best man hugs with him ever. Like when we score a goal and we embrace, and you just feel that connection, you just feel that joy, you feel that pride. And even though it's not you that scored, there's this kind of collective, everyone cheers, everyone gets up off their feet, and that can be success as well. So there's so many different ways to experience it in your life, I guess, whether it's vicariously or whether it's your own success personally. It's in lots of ways. Has it evolved? Come back to your original question. Yeah, I'd say it definitely has.
Mate, that's so beautiful. There's so many things there as well that I resonate with, and personally, similar like this weekend. One of my daughters, where one of them plays football, she's really into it, which is great. Cool. The other one, we're just trying to find her thing. She's tried loads of things, yet not for me. Decided horse riding's her thing, which I'm over the moon about, obviously, because it's nice and cheap. I'm like, okay, great. But she's found it. She really loves horse riding. But I'm like, it's very expensive to do horse riding lessons, so we're going to find a different way. But we met someone on the Downs recently who invited us to the farm and said, like, come and have a look around the horses. So I took her over on Sunday, and she was walking around. She just see her face light up seeing these horses was amazing. And we met this other woman who runs a farm in Biddinghoe, invited us down to come and like just this act of kindness. She was like, look, just come down any time. You can help muck out, and you just the joy, the pure joy in her face will last with me forever. Do you know what I mean? It's those little, and you're right. There's so much like we feel. I think the narrative around success and still like obviously my whole thing is around like the dictionary stuff around attainment of something, the attainment of fame or wealth or whatever those things, these higher measures, and yet actually just pure success and joy in those little magical moments. From listening to you, and even like you said, being a football fan as well, I can appreciate that. And you just go like just capturing those, but so much of it lends itself. But all of them things that you mentioned lends itself to the word that is one of these pillars that I've started to put together, which is presence, right? It's got to be like, and we can only really appreciate that joy and success in that moment if we're in the moment, right?
Yeah, it's so true. I think being present. I'm fortunate, I think, in that being present comes relatively naturally to me. Like my cousin once said to me, just said, "Oh, you seem really present, Simon. You seem really," and that's the way I love to be, right? That's just like I say, just because being in the moment, being in the now, is thinking about the future is fine, and like what you're looking forward to and reflecting on the past. That's also can be really beneficial and helpful. But that kind of that presence, that being in the moment thing, you just when you get the word I use to often describe this, Sam, is flow. When you're in a flow state and you feel really present, you just feel really engaged in whatever the task or thing that you're doing or watching or whatever it might be, a reading, it could be anything. That flow state when you're in it, it's glorious, and I never want to leave it, and I really try and protect it, but it's a really ethereal, like difficult thing because it's not like a 1 + 1 = 2 scenario, right? It's not something you can or you can't buy it. I can't go to the shop and buy flow, like there's 50 quid, I'll have a bottle of that, thanks very much. It's more when you're in it, you're in it. And it feels wonderful. It's the best, most lovely feeling in the world. And so you feel present, you feel joy, you feel engaged, and love that feeling. If I could bottle that, Sam, and sell it, then I'll be a millionaire. But it's all good. I don't need to be, so I'm happy as I am.
I'm interested. Like we've just on that topic. And have you always managed to be able to get into that state, or be as I guess, what am I trying to say? Have you always had that about you that I can, this is what it's about? It's about being in the moment, or has that changed over time? Have you maybe when kids come along or whatever? But I'm just for people listening. I think that's because it is for me. No matter how many people I've spoken to, other podcasts I've listened to, that is the gift. The gift of life is the most important thing. I guess I have all of them pillars that I've put together and all of the lessons I've tried to learn. Being present it's got to be up there with one of the most important things. It's a gift but we're in a society that tells us need more, want more, do this, be productive 24 hours a day, all these things actually takes us away from being present. Where do you sit on that? Have you always been that, or is that again?
I think I'm pretty lucky in that it's always come pretty naturally. I don't have to work at it, so like that is super lucky. So I don't have any, like that's fairly unhelpful for anyone listening in terms of okay, lucky you, right? Like okay, great, well done, but like how do I do it? I mean, so. But when I'm not in it, because there are times it's not like I exist that way all the time and float on some sort of cloud somewhere. Like that's just not reality or life, right? Do I? Like some people would meditate, right, to get into that state or to find that position or to find that, and I think that can really work for you. I don't. I'm not a practitioner. I've never been taught or never really done much meditation myself. I feel. How do I feel about it? I just feel super. I keep coming back to that kind of luck thing. Like I just am what I am, and just kind of enjoy being the way that I am. But sometimes when you're not, I definitely know when I'm not in that state as well. Like yesterday, I definitely wasn't in that state, Sam. Like I wasn't in it was all right. It was an all right day. It was Monday. It was fine. Like whatever. But I definitely wasn't my mojo wasn't at A1. Put it that way. And it's frustrating when you don't have it. And that energy, that flow, that presentness that you really love to have, and anyone loves to have when you have it.
Do you consciously recognise it? Is it like yesterday? You consciously go, I'm not here at the moment. Consciously aware?
I felt it, definitely. Yeah, and it's the word I use for it. Yeah, is this kind of mojo, kind of energy thing. Like it's. For whatever reason, everyone's got a to-do list, right? Everyone's got stuff they need to get done, and sometimes that can feel like really fun and really engaging. It's like, yeah, let's smash through this thing, and like I'm really into it, and that I feel really focused and want to get it done. And then sometimes you just don't, and it's super annoying. And it's not like I was totally unproductive and totally not happy yesterday. Like it was fine, it was okay, but it was definitely a bit meh. Definitely a bit meh.
Yeah.
And
good description.
Yeah, it was just like bang average, which is frustrating. So the football helped a little bit with that, and helped provide a good end to the day, and maybe a good start for today as a result of that, perhaps, to get me out of that slight funk that I was in. It can be all kinds of things that can get you out of it though. Sometimes it can be just going for a walk. Like we started this conversation, having a walking meeting can totally change the narrative, totally change your perspective, totally change your mindset as to what you're doing and what needs to be done. So I think there's one thing to recognise when you're in a bit of a funk or a meh, but then there's also a thing to go, well, so what do I need to do to alter my mind state? Do I need to pick up the phone to my dad and have a quick chat and sort of say, like, just chat about the price of fish for 5 minutes? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to do whatever it takes to find my presentness again, to find that kind of sense of control and happiness in what I'm doing? So yeah, change the narrative when you're not feeling it.
Again, I interviewed. He's been on the podcast before, Leon Taylor, who's the silver medalist diving, silver medalist for Great Britain, and he it was Mental Health Awareness Week last week, and he was a guest at the Big Business Breakfast Club, so I interviewed him again there just to share some of his theories around that, and exactly what you're talking about. He talks about flow state for obvious reasons, like standing on that diving board, being in that flow state to win that Olympic medal. But what he recognises so much, like, because he talks about his depression and when he was going through a hard time and mental health struggles that he went through, but actually movement, changing your state. He talks exactly like how you've described it, changing, and I think that's such an important lesson for people listening. Like, if you are feeling in that, for whatever reason, I like that. I'm going to use that.
Thanks.
In that phase, there is just sometimes getting up and changing where you are, rather than just sitting there and thinking about go and walk, go and swim, go and run, whatever, or chat to someone, pick up the phone, communication, connection, whatever those is. I think that's such an important thing for people to take away. I reckon.
Yeah, I hope so. And it'd be remiss of me not to talk about my own mental health as well. Yeah. And I'm diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed, I think it was 7 years ago-ish, that I had that diagnosis. And so Mental Health Awareness Week is important to me, and I think it's good I'm glad that we're talking about changing narratives. I'm glad the narrative is opening up and people are talking more openly now these days, it seems, on a daily basis about their own mental health and struggles and challenges, and I think that can provide really good role models, because people, I've found that when I share and my own struggles, and as a man it can be particularly hard to do that, right? Because it can sound, and as with all these things, it sounds really easy to, you can say it and it's like, oh yeah, it's easy, but like sometimes either you don't recognize you're not in a good way, or you just don't want to, or you just don't want to take, there's all kinds of reasons why you might want to address any particular issues at any given time. And yeah, cool. But talking is wonderful. Like when it's given, that's if I could say anything in this moment right now, it would be, if you don't feel like talking, even just write something down. That can be cathartic as well, actually. Yeah. Because it can help download your mind onto paper, right? I'm thinking about starting writing a book. I'm not sure if I'm going to, Sam. Let's see. Now I've said it on a podcast, maybe I'll have to.
100%. You heard it here first,
yeah.
people. Mate, I'm right. 100%.
Do you know what it is? If no one reads it, I don't really mind. I kind of want to do it just for the pro. I want to learn how to write well. I feel like I'm a decent writer, but like I'd like to be a really good writer. And so people I mentioned this to a few people, and they're like, "So what are you going to write about?" And I'm like, I think I want to write about the stuff that they don't teach you at school. So what are like lessons? And I don't think I'm some sort of like I've got it nailed down, but far from it. But like just talking almost like semi-autobiographically, like what have I learned? What have I discovered? What wasn't I taught? But there has been a useful life lesson that I can then share back with people and kind of go, here's some stuff that I've learned along the way. Do you resonate with this? Does it make any interest to you? I haven't started yet, and the starting is the tricky part, right? Just with writing. But yeah, I think I might have a go. I'm kind of curious.
100%. I think you should. And that, for me, that narrative is so important. I actually went into a school, like my kids' school actually. I went in and they've just started to do like a young enterprise thing, and mine year 5s, I didn't see them, but the year 6 they're trying to encourage them at the summer fair to do things, and I think I love that. I think it's so important that entrepreneurship is taught in school, but actually like life lessons and if a book can create that as well, and people, especially from a young, like next generation, right? Because people have heard me harp on about the education system on here many times, and I don't badmouth it. I think it's just archaic, and
I agree.
And it really needs to change. And I think especially I'm assuming like with your son being autistic, like there's some challenges there with the current system, the way it's set up, right? There's ways that people learn, and there's ways that people absorb content, and actually that's changing, and everyone's different, so trying to create something. But for me, it's just the balance between this archaic academic intelligence to try and get the foundations right. I appreciate there's got to be an element of that, but actually as well, what should be equally measured is emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, and life skills. I feel like if there's a balance there, and people are measured on that as well, and they're rewarded for that as well as they are here, because you alluded to earlier, like the success in schools, and as you did, you looked at if I get good grades and I'm doing well, then that is success, and I think that is the narrative in school, right? So that's got to change, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and good on you for going into the school and teaching and doing some entrepreneurship stuff. That's wonderful. I'm very lucky in my job that I get to work with entrepreneurs and sort of go on their journey with them and do mentoring and all kinds of interesting kind of engagements on that side. But yeah, nurturing that from a young age, I think, is a joy. And you find these kids, they come up with all kinds of great money-making ideas, right? Yeah. Like the ingenuity and innovation and creativity that comes when they give them the opportunity, right? Yeah. Is fabulous. So yeah, no, love that from you, and encourage that forwards. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think I guess I'd like to just go back a little bit, just because I do want to talk about your journey more as you go on, but as we're talking about school and stuff, I want to go back to like what do I need to know about you growing up, and that sort of shaped the man that sits in front of me today.
Okay. I had, when I talk about my childhood, I talk about having a really happy, healthy, secure childhood. I was really lucky. Grew up in Patcham, North Brighton. Just surrounded by, like, I had tennis courts over the road. I used to go and play with my mates till 10 o'clock at night in the summer and do whatever. And the school, like nursery, infants, juniors, all like absolutely lovely and good. So very, like, again, I talk about luck. Like, that's just life's lottery, right? Like, just super, super lucky. Secondary school was a much harder experience for me, especially the second half of secondary school. I was bullied quite badly, and didn't share, just bottled it all in, took it all on myself. And the thing that was kind of the hardest, one of the life lessons I had at that time, I felt like I was quite a normal, nice kid, right? Just like, I wouldn't say boo to a goose kind of thing. And then to get feedback that I thought I was okay, and then people were saying you're not okay, and like you're this, that, and the other, and like and coming at me quite hard. I was like, oh right, I'm not going to be liked by everyone, despite me being like, I think, okay, like, and that was a really hard lesson to learn. That was tough. That was super difficult, and that was something that I had to process as a young man. And partly, I think, definitely led to the depressive element of my bipolar disorder. Like, fed into that. I don't think I'm naturally a depressive or sad person. I'm generally like half bottle glass half full kind of guy. Like, I'm keep using that word lucky in this conversation, but feel lucky in that regard as well. And then my parents got divorced, and those two things combined, kind of in my mid-teens, that was hard yards. That was definitely hard. But I didn't deal with it or cope with it, or I coped. I got through it, I guess, but definitely was getting through it. I was just surviving rather than thriving at that stage and at that age. Just getting things done, living, just trying to get through it all. It was only there was this night, I remember it vividly. I was at university, first year of uni, and there was a night called Pounded, where the bottles, there was Smirnoff Ice, I don't know if they still sell that, or a bottle of Bud was £1. Okay, nice. And you can imagine the students tucking into that. So we did, and I just remember the reason I'm telling you the story. One night we had rather a lot of Smirnoff Ice and Bud. I'm not sure how well they go together. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But I went to the toilet and I just cried, Sam. How old would I have been? I would have been 18, 19 at uni. I just cried my eyes out. And my mate came in the toilets and found me. He was like, "You're right." He's like, he could hear me wailing and crying. And I was like, I couldn't. He was like, "What's up?" And I couldn't tell him. I couldn't explain why I felt the way I felt. But the alcohol obviously just released in me this kind of well of sadness that I'd had built up in me over years and years, like since I was like 15 or whatever, 14, 15. And the next morning, I remember this just very vividly. I sang, the song that came into my head was "I Can See Clearly Now the Rain Has Gone," and I remember singing it genuinely singing it to myself, and like in my head, and that's how I felt. I felt like this kind of sadness had kind of washed over me in one big bowl that I'd been building up. This like big volcano of like sadness had exploded, and then I felt this release. And I didn't at the time. I didn't know what I was sad about. I didn't know why I'd cried or what had caused it. But I definitely felt release. And the next day I was like, I felt magic. I felt on the cloud nine. I was just like, oh right. And it took me a little while to work out that's what it was about, and that's what had happened, and that's what had occurred. But yeah, don't recommend that as a way to process negative energy. But like that's what happened for me.
There's something so powerful now. I think there's something. I guess a couple of things. Like, is it that as young men, and I'm generalising because I don't want to, but as young adults, but I'll focus more on men, I guess, because I think women potentially naturally have that levels of communication. They do, and again, I'm generalising. I'm not saying everyone, but generally, I do feel like women, if they will sit and chat about, how they're feeling and all of them things. Whereas I think are we just with archaic narratives or just the way that society is, that we're brought up in a way that men can't. We don't have the skills or the toolkit to be able to understand and process emotion. Nope. Right? Like we're not able to communicate that. So when we're feeling certain feelings, we almost suppress them, and it comes out at a later stage in whatever form, like whether crying as you did or sharing that. How do we change that? Where does that? How do we change that?
I think conversations like this are, I'm not saying we're going to solve it in one podcast, far from it, right? But I think these kinds of conversations, help to open up and kind of say, well, we can see there's a problem with male, like men, and not talking and sharing and communicating and just bottling things up way too much. So I think we can do a better job. I think that when I look at problems, I always say, like, when can you see the problem? And I think we can see that. Like, I think the awareness and the acceptance of that problem is growing every single day. So then it's like, okay, well, good. Well, now we recognise there's a problem. What potential solutions do we have? What can we do about that? How can we address it? Like, I don't have a magic wand. I'd love to just kind of cast that spell and everything to be okay for everyone. But I just think. It massively.
Does it start in schools? Do we go back?
Yeah, no, Sam. I think it does. I think without question it does. And I've read and learned things about kind of apparently. I don't think I'm misquoting. Like, boys until the age of, like, I think it's 6, 7, around that kind of age, they I think it was Caitlin Moran was talking about this recently. She's like, young boys, they cry like girls, they share there's no difference between boys and girls basically. Up until the age of about 7, they're just like they cry, they share, they hug, all the things that just happen. And it seems there's this weirdness that kicks in society with 7-year-old boys that says boys don't cry, and boys you shouldn't do that. And that's the narrative we have to, because if we don't get them early, we're then fighting a battle later on, right? Like I fought my own battle, we all fight our own battles, and we're battling with society then as well. So we do need to get them early, and there needs to be this thing of like, no, hang on a minute, why do we say girls can't throw? It's just rubbish. Of course girls can throw, right? Like why do we say boys can't cry? It's just rubbish. Like these they are historical narratives that we absolutely have to challenge at that early outset, and kind of go, no, hang on, it is okay to cry. Like process it, allow it, like lean into that sadness, you know, and then let's understand why you're crying, and let's talk about, you know, how we can help you. But we've got to get it early, Sam.
Okay, I'm just going to say something about one of our sponsors, Riverval. The world of cars, vans and minibuses is often a pain point for many of us. The hassle of finding the right vehicle, let alone looking after it, are all more things to add to our lists as busy people. Riverval's mission is to make motoring manageable, and that's why they provide leasing, purchasing, servicing and vehicle management. So whether you have one family car or a fleet of vans for your business, Riverval are your trusted vehicle supplier. Visit www.riverval.co.uk. Okay, let's jump back to the podcast. And does that come maybe, I'm just thinking out loud, is it come from, it's a joint thing, right? It's not just parents, but it does start with that, right?
Sure.
It starts in the home, where you go, right, let's have a conversation about this. Let's talk about why you're sad or why you're happy or why, like, you know what I mean? Let's just have communication around that. And then if that's taken into schools as well, and again, I'm leaning into, I guess, the emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, whatever that looks like, but even from teachers as well, that they're encouraging that, and is it just that we create a new generation where that next generation is so emotionally aware that they're able to process and articulate their emotion, like sit in front of, like two men can sit in front of each other and cry and open up and share those feelings. And then, because ultimately so much of the conversation I have, like I've shared openly many times, like my mission is to reduce the suicide rate, okay, especially amongst men. So you go, I want to do that. Great to have these conversations. I think it's so important, and I feel like, but I always feel like prevention is better than cure. Right? That's the most important. So great that we have these, and we can hopefully, someone listening might resonate, and it might help them in that conversation, and they might then go and ask for help or speak up and talk about their feelings. But if we go back and we start with prevention, by encouraging in schools, by encouraging parents to just communicate, that no topics are off bounds, and just so much around emotion. That's got to be the way forward, surely.
I couldn't agree more. Like, that emotional intelligence piece is absolutely key, and especially with, you know, the future that's coming in terms of AI and potentially AGI and artificial general intelligence, when the robots basically take over. The thing that's going to set us apart and is our humanity. Is us. It's again talking about leaning into like who we are. Like we are these kind of thinking, knowing beings, and kind of I think we need to have opportunity to express that and think about that. I can't let you talk about suicide without talking about my own experience of that, Sam, if that's okay. Just to briefly talk about that.
Yeah.
So when I was 21, still at uni, I think third year-ish, something like that, I was super sad. I was tremendously sad, and I did not know why. Again, I was still grappling with this kind of whole divorce situation with my parents. I was still grappling with the bullying thing from school, and I was grappling with my relationship with my dad in particular. And I was very confused and very sad, and didn't really know what to do or where to turn. So I made a very poor attempt, thankfully, at taking my own life. And the next day woke up and was like, okay, that didn't work then. And I was like, okay, cool. Now what am I going to do? It took a good couple of weeks to kind of reflect and get back to kind of I came home and processed and sort of tried to understand what had just happened. Yeah, and so for anyone, like, you're absolutely right, prevention is better than cure, right? So like, but anyone that listens to this, if I could like say one thing, it's just, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. Like, reach out. Like, I remember my best friend in the world saying to me afterwards, bless him, he was like, "Why didn't you just talk to me?" And it's like, I just didn't know how. I didn't have the tools. Talk about that. You spoke about tools. I just literally couldn't process it. Couldn't understand it. Just knew that I was sad and really couldn't get out of that sadness. Fortunately, like I said, I did get through it with support from my family and friends and everything else. And yeah, that was a journey. That was a journey for sure. Yeah, so you just, people do care, and allow them to care. You know, when you're really struggling, let people. And it can be the hardest thing, and it sounds so simple, but just let them in. Just allow it. Absolutely allow it. Because people do want to help if they can, and that can just be by listening, and that can just be by being present for you. It can be all kinds of things. So yeah, and what, like, I'm just really happy that I was really. It was a really bad attempt. It was just rubbish. I'm just so happy it was rubbish, because I'm very privileged, Sam. I talk about luck a lot in this conversation. I'm very lucky. I genuinely love my life. Like, it's great. Like I say, come back to my kids, come back to my wife, and the work that I get to do. It's a real privilege. So yeah, what a joy all of that is. So I get, if you're looking for an example of turning like really deep sadness into like, actually I'm all right, like, I can hopefully this conversation and my own story is an example of that. That you can. I've been, the way I describe it, Sam, is that I've been in the Mariana Trench, like the lowest of my own personal low. The Mariana Trench being the deepest place in the world, and then I've also been to Everest. And as I was driving to Plus X today to kind of have this conversation with you, I actually drove past the place where I had my highest high, funnily enough. So I'll briefly talk about that, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
So this is part of the bipolar disorder and part of the diagnosis that I eventually got to. I went to work one day and I was hallucinating, Sam. I wasn't under the influence of any kind of drugs, but I didn't know at the time particularly well what was going on. But yeah, I was spinning out as much as it's possible for a brain to spin out on without hallucinogenics. So yeah, that was a weird one. That ended up with me going to hospital and speaking to a doctor there who was like trying to understand what was going on for me at the time. And the reason I ended up back, I left. I was spinning out so much hospital. It was just, I was sensory overload. It was just weird and not comfortable. So I left the hospital at the time and walked through Brighton from the hospital down to the level, up Lewis Road, and then up. You know, the centre just opening up just next on the green, just up here past the university. I ended up underneath one of the trees there, looking up at the tree and absolutely spinning out of my mind, looking up at the light coming through the tree and feeling all blissful and weird and lovely. And but it wasn't, like I say, that was my mind calming down, thankfully, because I've been hallucinating all day and it really wasn't a comfortable or fun experience at all. Anyway, I ended up going home, getting back to hospital, and getting diagnosed with bipolar and having a couple of weeks in hospital and getting well cared and looked after, and getting back to life after that. That was not a fun experience for me. It was not a fun experience for my wife. The kind of whatever the opposite of fun is, that it was definitely that. So again, I share this with you, Sam, today, and I share this with anybody that's caring to listen to this conversation, because it's my story, but also because I think there's things that I take out of it, you know, like so that was my Everest. So I talked about my Mariana Trench being the lowest. I had my Everest. I was really super high and off the scale, and not in a good place there either. And now the way I describe my bipolar is, it's like the South Downs. It's just like the undulating hills. I have ups and I have some downs, but like the downs, like I say, aren't very often. Maybe yesterday was a bit of a funk, as described before, but yeah, it's much more controlled thanks to medication, thanks to talking, and thanks to understanding the condition and everything to do with it. So, yeah, that was a journey, that was a thing. But there we go,
mate. Thank you.
No
Honestly,
worries.
I can't thank you enough for sharing that as well. Because, like I say, for me, I'm a strong believer that these type of conversations are so needed, and help. They really. I hope. My hope is that they help. I hope that people listening that may be feeling in a dark place, that they can. You speak openly about now how you are in a better place.
Absolutely.
And loving life, and how grateful we are that you're here, and I think that's such an important message. I'm really keen to just, if we can, just back to that time, and like, obviously afterwards, did you speak to, I guess, did you speak to your parents about it, other people around that?
After the suicide
Yeah,
attempt,
after the suicide
yeah.
attempt, yeah. And what was their take on it?
Yeah. I mean, I take, for what it's important that I preface anything I'm about to say with this comment, which is I take full responsibility. Like, that was my action, right? So whilst there were contextual things in my life that led me to that point, it was my, I don't blame anyone for it. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? The relationship I had with my dad was quite challenging. I love my dad dearly. He's an incredible man, and we have a very good relationship these days.
Did you not back then, or?
Yeah, no, he felt the divorce hit my dad. I think the divorce hits people in all kinds of. Some people it can be a relief, right? Because they're just happy to be out of something that really wasn't for them. For my dad, it was really a tough experience, and I was the only person in his life that he was able to talk to or kind of lean on. And if he was here now, he would be like, he's really sad about his, like, he knows that he shouldn't have lent on me, basically, because I was only 15, 16 at the time or whatever. But he didn't have anyone else, so like I kind of respect it, understand it, and if I could help him, then I in that at that time, then hopefully I did. But it was too much for me. Like, it was too much. And so I distinctly remember a conversation with my dad, Sam, when after my suicide attempt, and I was back with him, and I didn't know what I was about to say, but it just came out in the conversation. I was like, Dad, I needed to show you how sad you'd made me feel. And that was really quite hard for him to hear and for me to say. And like I say, it wasn't. I don't blame my dad. It wasn't all his fault. Far from it. There were lots of things that gone in my life, and like I say, I take responsibility for how I responded to that. But there was a part of me that I just did. Yeah, I needed him to understand that what had happened wasn't okay, and unfortunately, it came out in not a kind of normal, rounded, let's have a chat kind of way. It came out in a kind of very negative way at the time. And like I say, I see my dad tonight. I see him every Tuesday. I go over to his place. We chat. Mostly it's him talking. Actually, he talks. I listen, but he does listen to me as well. It's not he doesn't want to listen, but like, he doesn't have loads of human contact. And my dad craves human contact. So when he gets it, he's like 10 to the dozen telling me all this sort of stuff about his life. And I really enjoy it, and I celebrate it. And he's a great man, and I love him dearly. So I'm really glad we're in again. And again, maybe this is an example, just because we had a bad experience. It's nearly 30 years ago, and 25, 30 years ago, when all that sort of stuff happened. It feels like a different life, Sam. That's one of the things I've been reflecting on recently. I'm 44 this year, and like, yeah, relationships and life generally, it's like you look back and it's like, wow, that feels like so long ago. And I guess in part because it kind of is, right? But now I'm in my kind of midlife, and kind of working out what's next, which is quite exciting. Something to look forward to, I guess.
Mate, that's so. And I guess again, taking from just listening to you talk about that in that way, I guess again it's back to. I guess I keep bringing it back to that feeling of, and I think it's great that you was able to have that conversation with your dad. I think that's an amazing thing to have addressed and be able to have had that. But again, it's back to him maybe not having the skills, like he lent on you for whatever reasons, but not having the skills and toolkit to be able to communicate that with you about his emotional feelings and what he needed. Yeah. Vice versa, that as a young lad, you weren't given those things. So again, back to that levels of communication from an emotional place is such a. it's got to be game changing, surely, to so that we stop people maybe getting to that point. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I think if we're able to prevention rather than cure get to that place, that is a game changer. How we do that, I think I'm really interested to explore that with you, Sam, in this conversation, like, because I think we both recognise and acknowledge that is massive. In a classroom, it's tough. Yeah. Right, I come from a family of teachers. Mum was a teacher, my aunties were teachers, grandparents were teachers, and like when you got 30 or plus kids with all different kinds of learning needs and learning styles and everything going on, you've got a curriculum you have to teach and blah 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 blah. Like, I think we ask a lot of teachers, and that's not to say that we can't reform the education system. It is ripe for reform. I fundamentally believe it should be, and all this sort of stuff. How? Yeah, like I said, I don't think I have a magic answer. I like to get magic answers sometimes. It's like, I've got it, I've solved it. I've like that.
I'd love to try. I'd love to start solving it on this episode.
Yeah,
we're winning. But
we're winning.
Let's give it a go.
We'll have a go. But I think so. One thing I definitely take away from mentoring, and this is just coming to my mind. You know, I have a mentor, right? Gary's an absolutely incredible bloke. Like we have good chats, and he's someone I feel like I can lean into and talk to. I feel like everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, what stage of life you're at. Don't care if you're a man or woman, boy or a girl. Everyone needs a mentor. And I guess in a way, our parents are kind of take that mentoring kind of as part of their job of being a parent. Kind of take that on. But I think it's also helpful to have like a not a parent as a mentor. Like have someone independent who's not your teacher, who's not your parent, who is just a supportive other. And like maybe that's. Sometimes you find them; they naturally occur through life. I don't know if you have a mentor yourself, Sam, or you've kind of.
I'm leaning. I'm definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely. I've never. One of the things that I've changed massively this year, and why I can sit here and now say to you, I'm in a really people. It's been so lovely recently because people have been going to me, "How are you? You all right?" And I'm going, "I'm really good at the minute," and I feel in such a. I'm in a really, really good place, mentally, physically, all that. I feel in a really good place. But so much of that has come by asking for help and getting better. Like, for example, the session that we had up at the thingy, right? Yeah. Nigel reached out to me 18 months ago and was like, you know, I see all this stuff you're doing. I think it's great. Like, if I can support in any way, we can maybe run it. And I didn't take him up on that then. I don't know why. I wasn't in the right space, and I got to a point last year, whereas if we're speaking in December, and we was having this, and I mentioned this on a few episodes recently, speaking in December, people were asking me, I was not in a good place, really not in a good place. I don't think I went as dark as I did when, about the time I share on the 100th episode, I wasn't there, but I was just not in a good place. And I just got up this year and I went, I'm not going to be there. This December, I'm not going to be there. The reason I'm not going to be there is because I am going to ask for help, mentors, people around me. How fortunate I am with my network. I'm so lucky to be surrounded by so many incredible people that want to help. So actually just asking for it, and people were there. You was there. There was Sam, 10 people in that room, right?
It was an unreal room of people you assembled. It was like the Avengers assembled, right? Like genuinely, like I was like, wow.
Incredible.
It was a privilege to be in the room because I was around some proper great minds, like local luminaries. And so, yeah, like...
I think it answers your question.
Asking for help.
Yeah, asking for help.
Right.
And mentoring. I think you're right. I think I've never had a mentor, but I'm starting working with a coach now. Cool. I'm starting to, again, just speak to the great people that I have in my network. Even just, again, back to our walk and talk, like just speaking to, I'm just fascinated by other people and actually what I can learn from those and having that advice. And look, this is an education, right? Probably the biggest education. I get to sit opposite brilliant people like you and have a conversation about life and about the things that we can maybe change. So what you're angling at, I think, is incredible. I think you're right. And I'm assuming what you're trying to say is actually from a young age, how do we get mentors for everybody? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure how we... but that's definitely what I'm angling at, is kind of having role models, kind of people. But like, I'm not talking about celebrities. In this instance, I'm talking about someone that cares, someone that's kind of in your life, who wants to support and kind of be that kind of voice of, or sounding board or whatever it might be. And yeah, we could all do with a bit of that in our lives for sure. I really believe it. But like you make that point, Sam, which I think is really interesting to me. You ask for help. You ask for help, and when you ask for help, it's amazing the people that come out and go, "I'll help. What do you need? Like, is it practical support? Is it something like, do you need someone to talk to? What's the thing?" And suddenly you realise, crikey, okay, I can lean into that. I can be like, oh right, there's people that do care and I do want to help. And because you talked about an act of service a bit earlier in the conversation, and it's something I really took away from this year's TEDx Brighton, was the talk about acts of service. And I'd done a bit of volunteering recently up at Age UK and Haywards Heath. I came away from that day, Sam, I felt $1 million. And I'd just been volunteering for like 4 hours with these older people in this kind of this day centre thing, and met some amazing woman called Connie. She's 94 years young, bless her, and she had more vibe than me. She had more riz than me. She was absolutely like just chat. She was a proper legend. She was showing me pictures of her departed husband, and she was chatting about her life, and I was like, wow, if I can get to be 94 and like that, that's 50 years away from where I am now, Sam. And like life has felt pretty long so far in terms of when I look back and like, crikey. So if, let's say I get to 90, like if I'm lucky enough to live that long, crikey, I'd love to have a kind of compos mentis and that attitude towards life, just still kind of this desire, this passion for life and wanting to share about her experiences. What a legend. But yeah, acts of service. If ever you feel like you're a bit grumpy, do something for somebody else, you'll feel $1 million. Trust me, like it is the biggest, and it's the weird. Do you remember that episode of Friends when Phoebe tries to do like an act of service without getting any payback? She was like, "Is there such a thing? Is there such a thing as like a totally selfless act?" And like it was an interesting sort of thought experiment. But genuinely, if you want to feel happy, give, and you will feel it. You will feel it in bucket loads.
It's so, honestly, there's so, how many times, I've said it so many times recently on this thing, because I heard that thing from the monk about the 3 things about feeling successful. You know, being happy for others to be, genuinely being happy for others' success,
yes.
Loving the thing you do.
Yes.
3rd thing, to feel successful, helping others to be successful.
Yes.
Helping someone.
Yes.
If you help someone, like you said, act of service. If you do something, Danny Wilshire, that
yes.
you mentioned it was a brilliant.
It was a great talk.
Yeah, and but just landed so well. You go, what does it look like just to go out and be kind to someone and offer help and because it genuinely does, doesn't it? If you're,
mate.
You feel you're filled up. Your cup is full.
Sometimes over I drove home from Haywards Heath that day, and honestly, my cup was overflowing. Like it just felt, my heart felt warm, my mind felt joy, and all I did for 4 hours was chat to some older people, serve them their lunch, and did a quiz with them. Like it's so basic, right? It's so basic, but they really enjoyed the quiz. They were bang into it. And it was funny. There was a bloke there. He's like, I don't like quizzes. I was like, oh, don't worry, you don't have to. There's no like, you don't have to take part. But he like begrudgingly took part, and then he loved it. He loved the quiz. Like he was well into it as well. So yeah. It's
such a. If
you want to be happy, give.
Yeah, I love that. A couple of things I'd love to just again back to I guess the time of being bullied as well at school, and how that sort of impacted you, I guess. And like, have you like, was it just one person in particular, or was there a group of people that were bullying you?
No worries. So there was one person in particular, but there was like a group that he had influence over as well, and that was like, so the people that I thought were my friends kind of basically turned on me. So that was mate, that was just hard yards. And one of the hardest experiences of my life. But yeah, what do I take away from that? It's some of it still echo. The echoes of that last long. Like the ripples of that, the echoes of that. I'm kind of at peace with it. I'm as comfortable as I can be about it.
Have you seen him? Or have you?
Do you know what? I bumped into him at an event at Brighton Racecourse, and I was there as a guest of a company, and he was there as well. And I saw him, and he saw me, and I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I know what's going on here. And part of me is like a bit annoyed that I didn't say anything, but like part of me is kind of like, okay, whatever, just allow it, move on from it. It is what it is. Yeah, I don't know, Sam. Like,
If you did get, like, I'm just thinking, like,
yeah, go on.
like for you know, if he did, I just want what would you want to say to someone like that now? I guess just people listening, and you know, they might have kids that are in that situation, and you know, it's my fear for mine as
Yeah, of course.
growing up is that, you know, you go, I never want to be born, you know.
Sure, of course.
I like you. Sorry, mate.
It's okay,
You
mate.
just, you go. I look at mine, and I know I've spoke about her gender fluidity and what that looks like, and I'm really aware that she may face some adversity in the future. And I just want to give her much tools and coping mechanisms to deal with that. And I guess just from you speaking, if you was to speak to him, what would you say? And then what advice, I guess, could you give to me as a parent?
Okay,
to
no
give
worries.
to her?
Okay,
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry, mate. Don't be the opposite. Sorry. I kind of, I don't know. I don't want to sound magnanimous, but like I'd forgive him. I'd just like allow it. It's done. Like it's past as far as I'm concerned. So it is what it is. What advice can I give you about how do you parent your daughter? I'd be very careful about what I would say next, because who am I to tell you how to parent your child, for a start? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think you're the kind of person, Sam, who is gonna like lead with love, like that. Like, I'm sure you're gonna do that anyway. So like, you know, just lead with love, be compassionate. Just, I can tell when you're talking about her, like that depth of feeling is there, and that will come through. Therefore, in how you parent and how you support and the kind of level of care and attention that you give back. So, poor kids can be proper nasty when they want to be. Like, it's almost incredible how that can be, how that can be as it is. I don't know. Like, I think being available and being present is massive. Coming back to that, and when I say being present, like being emotionally available to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, like demonstrating and showing that you are, whatever they might be going through, whatever their life might be throwing at them, whatever experiences they may be having, that you are there, open and present to do whatever you can. And I you know, my kids are 9 and 7. Like, I want nothing more than them to be the best they can be, the best versions of themselves, and live the best lives they can have. And I think I'm not sure. Say one of my kids gets bullied, like, and I find out, I don't know how, like, that's going to bring everything back to me a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's going to be like, well, how can we better deal with that, and how can we kind of, because I'm going to want to deal with it. Like, I know that much. So I'm not going to be saying like, oh, you just crack on and that's fine. That's okay. Like, it's not okay. But I think, again, schools are better now than they were at dealing with it. I think that's true. But I think putting all the responsibility on them again doesn't feel that comfortable to me. Although often a lot of the bullying does happen at school, but obviously it's different now. Like, I can only imagine when you're like, at least when I got away from school, I was away from school, right? And I was at home, I felt safe. Whereas now you've got the phones in their pocket and they can get you in different ways, right? Yeah. So that's a different dynamic, which I don't really have a great grasp of how to understand or deal with that, or how that can be overcome. But being emotionally available and being present and letting them know that you're there for them, and with a fair wind, everything will be all right.
I love that. And I think, again, because they are similar, like mine are 10, so we're similar ages, right? And I always look like, it comes from a place of fear for me. Like, I went, like, Lucy's been, like, since she was 18 months, right? I want to dress like that, and I want to, you know, and so she's very clear on who she is and where she wants to go, and that's incredible. I go back to that point and go, the first thing was fear. Like, she's going to, because I was so fortunate growing up. I had such a wonderful upbringing, and I was fortunate. I was really fairly good at football and most sports, and got on with most people, so I was like, I was never in the group. I grew up in Dagenham, so I was never in the group where there was like the hard kids over here, and you know, you'd have some maybe people would say nerdy. I was just friends with everybody,
Cool.
and I loved that.
Yeah.
And so I never got bullied. I was really fortunate,
Cool.
and I didn't. But I saw people that were. So when something like that, and I was like, come from a place of I just don't want to be bullied. And again, it's back to me trying to go exactly what you said. I think that's really resonant, which makes me feel maybe we're doing an okay job at the moment. Is this about that, like this emotional intelligence, emotional awareness that I said to Kelly, like I feel I need to do more in that space, but I haven't got the skill or the tools to be able to change the world. What I can do is just from a basic level, from a foundation, is that she knows she's loved unconditionally.
There you go.
And she can come in and talk to me about anything at any point.
There you go.
And that will be okay. And all we can do as parents, I think, is give them again back to that toolkit. Like give them this box of tools. So I don't know if I've shared with you. It come out I think on the thing, like one of the little passion projects, my little lunchbox letters thing that I mentioned about, and I'm like, and I feel like that's something that actually just every day, no matter what, that's all I can give that to them. I can give to them every day, through my words and through that as well, through something tangible that they can open their lunchbox, and whatever's going on in their day, they're going to get a message around love, around kindness, around resilience, around following dreams, and all of these sort of positive elements that show that they're loved. I think if we can, as parents, as teachers, as a society, if we can create that, I think there's a shift maybe.
Yeah.
Shift.
Yeah, there is.
Because it's just giving them this big bag of tools that they go into life, right? And I think same with your kids. I'm sure, like just giving them how emotionally aware you are, and like just being able to have this conversation with me, like you're giving them those tools, right? Which is
Hope so.
Which is valuable.
We do our best.
We do our best.
We do our best.
And again, back to it. That's all we can do, right? That is all we can do.
We have a go.
Okay, I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, Search 7. They are a search marketing agency for social good. They elevate brands' online exposure locally, nationally and globally through strategic SEO and paid media consultancy. They specialise in many different sectors, including charities, e-commerce, travel, health and medical education, and professional and creative services. They also give agencies and charities the exposure they deserve via their hosted agency and charity events, helping to build community and connections. Their pledge is the inspiration behind their name. Since they started in 2011, they have pledged to give back 7% of their profits to charity. This has become a minimum of 7% each year, with their current fundraising surpassing £150,000 in support of 63 charities. Their latest campaign, #Share177k, aims to raise £177,000 by the end of 2026 to mark their 15th birthday. It's a pleasure to have them as part of the Series 7 of the podcast. I'm delighted. Thanks so much for your support. And I just again, just around that sort of time, I wanted to mention about your relationship with your dad and that period. Was it a different conversation with your mum around that period?
Yeah, I mean, my mum. So my dad is kind of undiagnosed something. Like, I don't know what, I'm not sure exactly, but he's on the spectrum somewhere. We're all on the spectrum, but he's on the spectrum somewhere as well. And so my mum really struggled to have that relationship with my dad over the years, because he wasn't the easiest person to live with, I don't think, far from it. So she was always kind of pretty, she just got her head down and got through it, basically, my mum, until she basically stayed in the marriage as long as she could, basically, until she got to a point where she couldn't anymore and it wasn't good for her mental health either, and she needed out. But she understands. I think we've had chats and stuff, and she understands me and kind of my story now, and like and kind of, yeah. She struggled with it at the time, and she was like, found it quite hard. But no, she understands it now. So yeah, she's She's a great woman as well. Like like they're both wonderful people. Like I'm super lucky to have them both in my life. They're absolutely superb, and she remarried and stuff, and has a very different life now. So yeah, I celebrate both of them. I think they're both legends. Yeah.
Love that. Well, look, I want to go on. I guess through your journey, your story. I know what I'd love to chat about a little bit as well is maybe about again about purpose, right? Me and you talked a little bit about that. I know, especially on that day, talking about my specific thing with you said such a purpose-led business, and I'm keen. What's your take on that in relation to, like, is it something like, again, back to kids, I guess, that we can educate that next generation? Is purpose, is that something we've got to find? Is it something we learn over time? What's your take on that?
Coming back to that first question about defining success, we're so used to saying for profit. So like we're a for-profit business, and we're defining success by how much profit we make. Or in the case of not-for-profits, it's a very different kind of equation, right? Rather than looking at that narrative of saying we're defining it across the spectrum of profit, how about defining it across the spectrum of purpose and saying we're a for-purpose business? That allows for profit. That means we can still generate surplus and reinvest in our business and do whatever we want to do with that profit. But we're not going to define our purpose by profit. We're going to define it by like the reason we exist and the reason we do and the value that we add and the solutions we provide and the problems that we solve, and defining it that way instead. I think it's quite a different narrative for people to get their heads around, and a different way of approaching doing business for a start. But I find, defining things around purpose. For me, my own story about purpose and work was that I decided age 23 that I couldn't do work that I didn't consider had a purpose beyond profit. So I went away to Nepal for 8 months as a volunteer with an incredible charity called Restless Development. Check them out, they're beautiful. They're a youth-led development agency. They believe in the power of young people and the power of their ability to, if you facilitate them, then they got the drive, the motivation, the desire, and they haven't been trodden down. Do you know what I mean? They had this kind of like, life shouldn't be like this. It should be like this. If you give them the opportunity and frame it for them, then off they go. And so this charity did that for us, and that really crystallised, Sam, for me, the feeling that I needed to do work that I could derive the purpose from, and. So I quit my well-paid graduate career and moved back to Brighton and was like, how am I going to do this? And I was like, all those charities I love are up in London. Didn't want to live in London, didn't want to commute to London. So I worked for an agency. So I spent 10 years working for fundraising agencies, working with incredible charities like Save the Children and Amnesty and various others over the course of a decade. And it was a joy, Sam. It was an absolute joy. And I found massive purpose through my work. It was very direct. So it's that sense of purpose. And in the last 10 years I've been working in Sussex Innovation and working in the innovation space, and I find satisfaction and purpose because I've been working with young entrepreneurs, older entrepreneurs, doesn't really matter that age framing, but like kind of supporting, mentoring, upskilling on their coaching and working through their journeys, and that I found purpose through that. So Daniel Pink, great writer. If you've not heard of his stuff before, I strongly recommend his book called Drive. There's like a 15-minute YouTube video which kind of illustrates the key theory behind the book. And basically what he says is that money is a hygiene factor. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's right at the bottom. It's along there with shelter and food and water. You just got an amount of money, Sam, that you need to earn to make you happy and all right. Once you get paid that amount of money, money is no longer a motivating factor. So the theory says. What does motivate you is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy, do I get the freedom to express and be the best that I can be? Mastery, can I be the absolute, am I being trained, supported, and developed to be the best that I can be? And purpose, do I derive a sense of meaning from the work that I do? If you can find a situation where you get paid the number that you need for money to be not an issue, and you can find autonomy, mastery, and purpose in your work, you're winning. 100% you're winning. So go and look for if we can build a society that's around that autonomy, mastery, and purpose idea, and we're able to pay people in such a way that that's not an issue, then that is solving a lot of motivation and drive, and will help people feel more successful because they will derive a sense of meaning, purpose, and can be the best they can be in their work. Is that all right?
Wow. That's I love. fucking love that.
Good.
I love that.
Good. It's not mine. I think it's from Daniel, but
mate,
like it's good stuff, right?
I've not heard it in that one, and that is such a. Like, and again, I'll refer it back to trying to change the suicide rate and the impact over here, right? I've shared the statistics around it. I've shared the statistics around feeling successful and why that, 60% of those suicides are finance, economic related, because we're not measuring up to society's narrative. If like you said, if we created a society that looked at it like that, looked at it, how you've just so brilliantly articulated, if we created a society like that, does that, would that give people a feeling of success that would maybe have an impact on that?
I'm sure it would. So my 2 ideas for you so far, Sam, are if we can get everyone a mentor in some way, shape or form, like an appropriate person to support, could like nourish, support, and help navigate life. And then if we can just reframe society that's around autonomy and mastering purpose and not so much about other things, then I think we'd be that needle would shift massively. That would have it. I strongly believe that would have a significant impact in how people frame success or not, and therefore how they feel valued or not by society and what they're achieving or what they're not achieving. That feels like progress.
That is gold. And I guess like listening to you and your specific, like you put yourself in these spaces that do things that like you seem so passionate about. Like when I've spoke to you about, I follow you online as well, and you spoke openly about like the scale ups that you're working with in that space, and you just seem that you're really passionate about different whatever you've gone into. You've got a purpose, right? Because is it because it again? It's back to finding out what are your values, I guess, and does it align with those? Is that what I guess that? Again, is this something that we need to teach again in schools? Do you think like again? I find it hard. I'm going around the house, but I find it hard sometimes to. Will kids understand that? And do we want to encourage them to find a purpose? Like, is it that that we teach them to be good human beings, that we teach them to understand what their values are, and then lean into the things that light them up? Is that where the communication needs to come from? Do you think from a young age that they're the things that we need to look at, because they will naturally find a purpose because they choose a career path in life that aligns with their values?
Sounds okay to me, Sam. Like that sounds like a lot of it. I think.
Where did for you? Yeah. Was it the trip to Nepal that changed that for you, or did you? Was that the turning point for you? That you go, I'm going to lead a life. That was like that.
The way I describe it, Sam, is that experience crystallised for me the sense that I had to do work that had purpose. So like I kind of already knew. So when I say crystallisation, it's like the seeds of it were already there. But that experience solidified it and said, no, right, that has to be it from now. And I was 6 months back in my job working for a big corporate, and I was like, no. And again, I got quite sad because I was just like, this is the opposite of purpose. Like it just doesn't. It's important I say this as well. That's not to say that having a corporate life isn't purposeful. For some people, they derive great sense of meaning and purpose from that kind of career. And I'm not slating that kind of path at all. I'm really not. It just wasn't for me. It didn't align with my values and where I was at and what I needed to do and my own personal journey. So yeah, but like I say, it's not to say it's not okay for others. When it comes to scale ups and kind of looking in that space, just briefly, like I did my MBA at the University of Brighton, so on the grounds of where we are now, just at the business school next door, and I did my whole thesis on the chasm between starting and scaling, because starting is one thing and scaling is another, and then the bit in between is like this valley of death, unfortunately, where people just kind of fall down the gaps and kind of struggle and don't get to that scaling position. So I was really interested in what's going on there and why, and in quite a Brighton and Sussex context as well. So I studied that to an extent and wrote my thesis about it, and now fortunately in my work getting to look at more about that and kind of seek to understand and support scale up companies with that kind of work, because they want to drive forwards, they want to grow, they want to be successful, and I'm really interested in understanding what levers I can pull or what levers we can pull together to help achieve and unlock that kind of success. And again, funnily enough, mentoring is a key part of that.
What are the biggest challenges they face from a startup? Someone coming in and says, "I've got this great idea, I'm starting up." But what are the common? Is there common themes? Is there common problems that you notice between that?
Definitely, the number one thing that I can say almost without fail over the course of 10 years that every entrepreneur or founder has said to me. I say to them, "What's your number one challenge?" Sales. Every single time, Sam. Like we need to sell more of what I've created a thing that people will pay for, but I need them to pay. I need more of the people paying me for the thing that I have to sell them, product or service, whatever it might be. That is always the number one challenge. Coming back to my favourite Daniel Pink again, he's written a book called "To Sell Is Human," and he basically says that we're all in sales. You're in sales, Sam. The personal reception's in sales. We're all in sales, but people don't think they are. But we're all in the art of moving people. We need people to get stuff done on our behalf. We'll either pay them to do that, or we'll persuade them because we need them to get. There could be a different dynamic in the relationship where it's a non-paid thing. But we're all in sales. We're all in sales, and to sell is absolutely a human thing. But people find sales icky and and like meh, and like they don't like it. They somehow think this kind of like this old world 20th century view that sales is somehow kind of like manipulative and like I'm trying to give you something. Sales is just meeting an unmet need. I'll say it again because it's worth repeating. Sales is just meeting an unmet need. If you have a need and it's unmet, then I have a way of meeting that need, then there's a conversation to be had. If you don't have a need for what the solution that I provide, then there's no conversation to be had in the first place, right? Let's move on. Let's find somebody else who has the need. And the trick is can I find enough people who have the need, and can I have enough conversations with those people to make enough sales to grow my business and do my thing? So that is the common golden thread that I come across every single time. It's kind of what's kept me in a job for the last 10 years. Is because people and I find it weird that people don't like sales, but like I love it, and I think it's the most. And again, in this AI AGI future, people buy people, Sam. People absolutely fundamentally like if I like you, I'm more likely to buy from you. Fact, stone cold fact. So then people say, well, it's manipulative because you're trying to get them to like you, and like no, it's not. You're just being human, just being a person. Like it is human to build relationships and have conversations, and then if you've got an unmet need and I can meet your need, then there's some magic that can happen. That's fine. So yeah, I encourage everyone who's still listening. Bless you. Thanks for listening to this long. I would embrace the humanity of conversation, relationship building, and sales, because it's the magic that will help grow your business.
And you've mentioned a couple of times about AI, and with obviously the integration of that within society. Is there more of a need for that human connection? More of a need for sales? Like we're talking here from about business. If we're talking about business and how we get to a point and then we scale and we move the needle and we grow a business. And they're the things we're talking about. And you're saying that, of course, AI is an amazing tool, right? Yeah. But if you had to say the one thing that would move a needle, it would be leaning into the human side.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Look, so we're living in an age where the CEO of OpenAI and Anthropic and Google DeepMind are saying that within 5 years we'll have AGI. So basically the robots take over. It's like they don't, but like we get to a point where all of human intelligence has been surpassed by artificial intelligence. And that's a pretty mind-blowing thing. I was having a conversation with the ex-CEO of a very large company the other day. He sits on the board of some very large companies now. And I was like, what do you think about this 5 year thing, this 5 years? Because 5 years isn't a long way, Sam, like 2030. Like, you blink and you'll miss it. It'll be here before you know it, right? I was like, we're not ready for that world. And he was like, Simon, when people don't know when things are going to come, they say it's going to take 5 years because they don't know, right? That's just like when something, he took quite a skeptical view of this kind of 5-year time horizon and the fact that maybe it won't come so quickly and whatever. My absolute response to AI and the future of AI is the only way we can. And I encourage people to do this before AI anyway. Like I say, is just lean into our humanity, lean into who you are, what you're about, your loves, passions, desires, goals, how you frame success, all of that stuff. Just be that. Jump into that.
There's a thing, because look, we obviously, the reason we're connected so well, but we share similar values, and I think we've got a similar outlook. Okay, but I want to play a devil's advocate and put what the pushback, like the stuff you talk about with Daniel Pink, and obviously the reframing success, and it is that we need enough money, but we do. How other people, because my place is the podcast is about helping the world to see success differently, right? I'm on a mission to reframe success.
Love that from you.
In a whole thing. That's my goal.
Love it.
And I'm going to do that.
Love it.
So I'm going to go, right, where do I go into the corporates, and I'm going to go and change it. But we live in a capitalist society.
We do.
Where me going into a large organisation that's turning over huge amounts of money, and me maybe saying, maybe we need to look at success in a different way, and it's not based just on this. We're going to look after people's mental health. We're going to look after we're going to help men especially reframe success in a way that they don't feel like they failed if they haven't hit X amount. Is there going to be pushback on that, like from a capitalist? They go,
sure.
A minute. Like, so what? And I don't want it to be that where I'm trying to create this woo-woo land where everyone's hippie and stuff like that. Sure. Of course, I'm saying money's really important. We need to make lots of money, but if that isn't the only measure, then it's having an impact over here.
Yes.
People are struggling. If we can change that, what's your take on that? Where are people listening to us? We're validating each other because we're on the same page, but other people listening in run £500 million turnover business. I don't
This
want
ain't for me.
to,
Is there going to be pushback? I'm sure there will. Yeah. So like, is there going to be a kind of potentially this isn't for me response? Probably yes. What I would say to those people is this: there is a human imperative to why this should be done, right? In terms of all the reasons you've stated around mental health, men's mental health in particular, and suicide rates and things like that, how we measure success. There's a kind of human imperative to why this should be done anyway. But you can come into it from an economic perspective as well. If you want productivity, if you want efficiency, if you want, all the research says that happy staff are productive staff. If you want happy staff, you need to. You need to come back to that autonomy, mastery, and purpose thing. That's why it's so beautiful, right? You kind of come back to that thing and go, well, if you want to have this environment where people are successful and therefore your company is more successful, then these are the foundations of the thing. And if you don't have that foundation, if you don't have that culture, trust me, they're not. Those profits will go down. There will be a direct impact on their economic performance as a business if they don't put these measures in place. Wouldn't it be interesting, right, if we had the research to back that up? Yeah. So you can go to them and say, right, here are some companies that who haven't just spoken kind of rhetoric to this and said all the right stuff, but the practices are totally different. No, they've applied these practices and principles within their business, and here's the economic impact of that. Here you go, Mr. Businessman. Here's our case study. Here's our evidence base, which says this stuff really. This isn't just we think it works, or isn't it nice? Wouldn't it be nice if? No, this stuff really, really works. And let's get University of Brighton or Sussex onto this. Like, let's get them on the case because because maybe that research already exists. You could probably go on Google Scholar right now and find examples of this research existing. I haven't looked into the depth of that, but I think it's a really interesting space, right? So. Because that's what's going to persuade anyone. Like, give me hard evidence, give me research, give me evidence based, give me empirical research that says this stuff works.
Mate, 100 I'm with this, right? Because I can talk about this all the time, and I love it, of course, and I've from the 100th episode, I've got this framework of what success,
love
how
it.
we can measure success, right? Balance, authenticity, presence, fulfillment, relationships.
Love it.
they're my 5 pillars, right? And we're going to go, right, how do we measure? How do we measure these within a workshop, within a masterclass that we can go in and then, but the only way we're going to change that narrative and get people to look at this is if it's backed up with science, with research, with so I've just started to do a little bit of work with the University of Sussex around financial literacy and what that looks like with working class, and leaning into how that maybe will impact mental health and that type of thing. So I do feel that there's some space. So I think I need to do more in that, because I want to get that, because it's fine. Some geezer from Essex who's chatting on about success and what this looks like, and in me daddy die I want to be accent, but going, actually, if we've got an academic study and some real hard evidence that can go, and then, like you said, some case studies, so going into these companies and actually showing that we started here, we've measured this here, we've come out here, and this is what it looks like.
That's big.
Maybe that's big.
That's big, but it can be done, right? It can be done.
So.
No, I believe it as well. I really believe it. Those 5 pillars are very strong, Sam, and they feel like the right pillars as well. So getting that evidence base, I guess what you're going to need is like pilot companies, right? Like people, it's like, will you take part in my research project? We're going to do this. We need some control companies that don't do it, so we can measure ourselves against them and all that kind of stuff, and do all the good research pieces. But yeah, before you do it, I would look at it and see what's already existing. Have a look. Sure. Honestly, Google Scholar, it's a beautiful piece of kit. Yeah. You can just check out what put in your keywords as you would do in Google, and see what's already out there. Because some of the work, or a lot of the work, may already have been done. But maybe not just specifically about your particular 5 pillars. But yeah, that's what's going to change. That's what's going to get ears pricking up. Is kind of like of boardrooms of big corporates. Is kind of go, oh right, and they're doing it, are they? Oh right, and they've had some success with it. Oh right, we better get on that one. We better get into that. But this, I really support your mission, Sam. I think it's a really important mission, and talking of kind of giving like support or whatever, like any way that I can facilitate or support that mission, I'd be delighted to engage with it any way I can. Like I'm genuinely in that sense. If I make you like,
I'm glad, mate. This is a starting point to have this wonderful conversation online like this, and be able to share your inspirational, incredible story, and honestly, so openly, honestly, raw, and mate, it's game changing. It's the reason. Look, I walk out of here with my cup full, right? Yeah, nice. I'm so grateful for your time and being able to do that.
It's my absolute pleasure, Sam. And just to talk, like to be heard and to talk is also. So my glass is full coming out of here today as well, mate. Like it's lovely. We're about to go and have a photo shoot with SBT. So I have a big smile on my face. Hopefully, when we go and do that in a minute.
Mate, as we're coming to a couple of things just before we sort of ran out. I want to if all the stuff we've talked about, and the stuff that you've learned over your life and where you are now, if you go back to that 15-year-old Simon, what advice do you give him? What would you say to him?
I say stuff's going to be okay. So like, don't everything will be okay, and life is good. But maybe talk to someone, mate. Maybe don't try and cope with it all on your own, buddy. It's all right. Reach out to your friends or your family or someone you trust, and have a chat about some of the problems you're having, you're experiencing right now. You don't have to deal with it on your own, bud. Is what I'd say.
Love that. That's good. That's just great advice for anyone, right, in that space. And then I guess for people, like, again, is that the same thing that you'd say to someone listening who's maybe in a not a great place, like hopefully not gone as far as you did into that space, but are just feeling not great and in a dark space? Is what coping mechanism, or what advice do you give with that person?
Yeah, like let people in if you can. Do seek that support and that engagement with other people, or just get out into the world, have a walk. Like we've spoken about a little bit in this conversation, but yeah, just know that other people care. They do. They really do. And so just let them in. Allow it. Yeah.
Well, look, we've got our closing tradition on on a podcast. So this is because you haven't been to one of our top table events.
I haven't,
mate. We're gonna rectify that.
Bless you.
We're gonna rectify that.
All right, no worries.
This is these are what we use there. So these are our storytelling cards. So I'll just get you to pick a card, any card, and then pass it back to me.
All right. I'm not to look at it now.
No. I'm gonna read it out to you.
All right. Question. Okay, go ahead. I'm curious.
Which rituals or habits keep you connected to what truly matters in life?
Rituals or habits. It's a good question. I mean, having a season ticket and going to football is a bit of a ritual, right? That's the first ritual thing, because I don't go to church. That would be another ritual. Yeah, that's definitely one ritual that keeps me connected to life and it keeps me happy. How can I forget? I play cricket on a Saturday in the summer. We've just started. We had our first game of the season a couple of weeks ago, and that ritual of playing. But like, honestly, Sam, we won our first game of the season the other day, and I sent a group message in the group chat afterwards. And it wasn't because we won. It wasn't the beers in the pub afterwards. It was the feeling on the field when we're fielding and we're taking a wicket, and the energy, the vibe, the buzz between the guys. It was absolutely beautiful. Like we just like it was. Everyone was just like we just were together. We're together and we felt it, and I could feel it, and it was absolutely lovely. So, what rituals or habits do I do? Watch sport, play sport. Cuddles with my kids are some of the best things. Like even this morning with my boy, just leaning in and having a cuddle before he went off to school. That was a nice habit we have. Just enjoying all the little bits. Because the big bits, sometimes it feels like the big bits are the really important stuff, like the things that's going to really move the needle and do whatever. But I think I read this thing, like people think they're going to enjoy the big outcome, and actually it's the journey. It's way more about the journey and the ups and downs and the bits and pieces that get you to where you're going to go, that deliver the satisfaction, not the end, hurrah, we've done it thing at the end. That can feel lovely, like winning an award or score a goal or get 50 at cricket or whatever. That would be nice if I did that one. But that isn't the thing. It's the thing that gets us. It's like I say, the journey that we're on. And it sounds so blooming cliche, but it's just true. That's the bit to enjoy. So what rituals or habits do I have? Just enjoying the journey, enjoying the process.
Amazing. What a great way to finish, mate. This has been a real pleasure. Honestly, I've loved every second of it. I'm so grateful for your time, your support, your wisdom, your knowledge, and everything you shared, and your openness and honesty and vulnerability as well is so powerful, and I'm really grateful. So, mate, it's been magic. Thank you.
Bless you, Sam. Thanks very much.
And that, as they say, is a wrap.